Welcome to Jeremiah Stringer Hikes, and I stole his channel. My name is Austin. You can check me out at Middle TN Hikes. It's a reference channel. Any trail in Middle Tennessee where you don't need to sleep in the middle of it to finish it, I'll cover it eventually. And it's just reference, you know, you got a day off. Spend it wisely. I'll help you do that. We'll put a link in the description, or we might even have a card slide in. One of the things we wanted to talk about today was transitioning from day hikes to maybe an overnight trip, backpacking. I cover day hikes, he covers backpacking, and it only made sense. So what should somebody that hikes 1 or 2 miles on the weekend do to get ready for, say, a 10 or 20 mile trail?
I'd say key number 1 is to go to my channel. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, you're right.
Key number 1, research. And that can be in whatever form you want. Whether you want to watch YouTube videos, whether you want to read blogs, whether you just want to search online, but look at a bunch of different sources. Figure out, you know, there's credible sources out there. Figure out some good credible sources, things that you trust, and start there and kind of figure out what your goal is before you start moving forward to buying gear or planning trips out or anything like that. Pick a goal.
Yeah, and that's important because when I got all my backpacking gear, I've actually been backpacking since I was a teenager. And I went out and bought all modern gear one time in one big swath, and it was, you know, I spent $2,000 in a weekend. And some of it I've yet to open.
Yeah,
and
you don't know what you want.
It's been sitting in the package for decades. It was just a waste. And then I know I walked into one store around here that sells backpacks and stuff, and I had the Backpacker Magazine year-end review, gear review thing, whatever it was called, and I had my pack circled in there. I want to buy this pack. I went in and talked to him, and he looked at me and said, "Are you sure that's what you want to get?" And he grabbed it off the wall, filled it with sandbags, and put it on me, and I hated it. So don't just buy off the shelf. Find somebody that knows their gear and get their advice. You know, borrow a buddy's pack. You might hate it. You might like it. You might go, "This has way too many zippers. I can't find my watch." You never know.
And the thing about gear is I don't care what item you're buying, whether it's backpack, tent, sleeping mat, whatever it is, there's always something that you don't like about it. Like, there's no perfect piece of gear. So basically you got to go figure out what things you want and take it step by step by step. So after you got your goal in mind, I would say start small. I don't know what your goal is, but start small and maybe do one night sleeping outside your house in the tent you bought.
Yeah.
And get a feel. That way, if you get freaked out or if something's not going right, you can just go back in your house.
Yeah, you might get in it and go, "I like mattresses."
Yeah, yeah. I got a buddy that I was like, "Dude, look, you have to come backpacking with me." And he was like, "No, man, you're crazy. I'll go out with you and I'll walk and hang out. I'll hunt, I'll fish, but I just don't like sleeping outside." And I'm like, "Oh, all right. Well, I guess it's not for you, and that's fine."
Yeah. It was for me when I was younger, but not anymore. My joints don't move like they used to. I'm kind of old and frail these days, so I keep it small out of choice. But yeah, so, and then once you've done that, once you've gotten a tent, that's a relatively small expense. It's time to move on. Maybe go car camping. Pull your car up to a camping spot in a park and set up right there next to your car.
Absolutely.
And you know, for those of you, I tell you what, I get requests on my channel of people that walk for health. Like maybe they just had knee replacement surgery and they have to get in a mile or two. Those guys there, y'all can hike, y'all can camp too, and that's a good way to do it, is the car camping.
Yeah.
You pull up, you're right there. If something happens, you gotta go home. Your car is right there.
I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Probably once you've done that, I would go with hike in like half a mile or maybe a mile in one night.
Yeah.
And then worst case scenario, you walk back out to your vehicle if there's something not right.
There's a good park for that too. It's called Montgomery Bell. It's over here in Dixon, which is just west of Nashville. And they got a 10 mile with like 3 or 4 shelters on it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can set up your tent, and if it rains, you can just get out of the tent and sit in the shelter, or set your tent in the shelter, or just in a hammock.
Yeah.
Or something like that. And that's a good way to do it because, let's see, the last 5-mile hike I did it in 2 hours and filmed a show out of it. So 10 miles, I mean, you can get out of there if you need to.
Right.
Yeah.
I say put yourself in a position where even if it's what you would consider unsuccessful, put yourself in a position where you can make it a success. Like you learn something, or you just don't have a miserable time. Like you were talking about, if it started pouring the rain, and maybe you got a crappy tent that's leaking, or it's just a bad situation, you could go in the shelter. So it's not like you had to be miserable all night or you had to leave.
Mm-hmm.
Then once you have spent one night out, half a mile from the vehicle, maybe you want to do a loop that's like 5 miles. So you go halfway. Worst case scenario, you're only 2 or 3 miles from your vehicle at one time, and you hike back to the vehicle. So you're not, there's no big logistics involved. You're just starting out, and you're putting yourself in a position where it's not dangerous to you, most likely.
Yeah, and those are all good thoughts. And I actually had that happen. I took my boss's kids. He had 3 kids, so me and a friend of mine took them out camping, and it's an old job. I no longer work for the guy. He's a nice guy, though. And it came a storm, and the tent caved right in.
Oh, my gosh.
I was laying there thinking, it's awfully quiet, and right about then, lightning struck, and I could see the roof of the tent inches above my nose.
Wow.
And so we scrambled out of there just in time to hear the poles break. And that was at Creek Falls, I think, and we ran all the way to the hotel and bought a room.
yeah. So, but you're still in a position where if you have to get out, you can.
Yeah, we weren't actually backwoods camping. I hadn't been there in a while, but at the time they had their car camping site, and then off to one side they had like 5 or 6 little spaces that were 100 yards into the woods, so you felt like you were isolated. So it was a good way to take the kids that had never been hiking before.
Yeah.
And then we'd spent the day hiking, and then if I got them on the trail and realized they couldn't handle it, it's just right over here.
Yeah, you just leave. Just leave.
Yeah.
I like that. And to be honest, this isn't how I got my start. I'll make an entire video on this later on, but basically mine was just baptism by fire, a 4-day, 3-night trip, and if I didn't like it and I was 20 miles in, tough. I was just going to keep going. But I'm a big advocate for small incremental wins getting you to your entire goal. If you bite it off in chunks and you have fun along the way, you're going to fall in love. Or at least that, I fell in love with it.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go and you have just one horrible experience to start off with, it can ruin it for you. So I say take it increment by increment. Make small changes, and like what you're saying about borrowing friends' gear, I would 100% do that. Like I spent very, very little on this 4-day trip the first time because I go to each of my friends, I'll be like, hey, do you know anything about backpacking? Because I don't know. And they're, half of them, or most of them were like, what are you talking about, dude? And I was like, do you know anything about backpacking, like hiking? And you know what they told me?
What's that?
They were like, yeah, it's pretty simple. You just go in the woods and walk. And I was like, no, I don't think it's that simple. And so the ones that knew what they were doing, they would loan me gear. And I had everything I needed. We were in the Smokies, so I didn't need a tent. You had to sleep in the shelters. So I had everything I needed in a backpack that was stuffed with way too much stuff. And it didn't ruin it for me. I fell in love, but it very well could have. But one of the big factors is I didn't spend any money. So if I had bought all that stuff and then hated it, I could have spent $2,000 or $3,000, and then resell it for less money.
Yeah, I spent a lot of money on a sleeping bag, and I thought I was being smart and got it for like -30. And
that's a warm. Are you talking about the temperature range?
It's hot. Yeah.
That was a warm bag.
Yeah, and it's hot. And what I found out is I hate the cold, and I do most of my camping in hot weather, and I don't even use it.
You still have it?
Yeah. Another important thing is getting yourself fit and ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I know in the Middle Tennessee area, there's several little 1-mile gravel walking trails and parks.
Hey, huh?
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, there's lots of parks around here and greenways and stuff. Just get on them and put miles in, man, and that'll get you up to the point where you can get in the woods, because you don't want to hike 5 miles in, wake up the next morning in the middle of the woods and go, I can't move my legs.
Yeah, that's a bad situation. Yeah, when you talk about getting fit, as you can see, I used to be really fat and now I'm not. And I kind of discovered backpacking toward the end of that transformation in my life. And if I had not have been as physically fit as I was on this first backpacking trip, like the entire first day was 10 miles uphill through the Smoky Mountains, and I just could not have made it, period. So your physical fitness level is a huge factor whenever it comes to like doing longer trips. So like you said, I would start off with an environment that's inviting to you. It's comfortable for your fitness level, and that may start with paved trail that's a mile long, and then moving to gravel, and then moving to like dirt trails that you maybe hike 2 or 3 miles in a day, and still doing those incremental changes and getting more fit and conditioning your body for the trail. Because if you're going to do long distance backpacking, you need all the stuff, all the gear that goes along with that, and that can be pretty heavy. Especially when you're first starting out and you're kind of on a budget. You're like, well, I can't spend $300 on a backpack. I gotta put gas in my car. So the more budget friendly gear is typically a little bit heavier. So with that in mind, you have to be able to handle that weight.
So that's one of the places where my channel can come in handy, because I focus mainly on day hikes. 1 mile to 10 miles is the average. Check it out. You might hike in, see a waterfall. It's a mile in, hike out. There's your exercise, and you get the reward of hanging out at the bottom of a waterfall. There's lots of cool things like that. So that's where day hiking has a place in the hiking world, is outside of just people that don't have time. It'll get you up and ready for the bigger adventures.
Oh, absolutely. So the big question is,
are we going to land on our faces in a second? I wouldn't want people to know I'm a doofus.
I got that on camera.
Definitely stay away from waterproof. Good thing we're on a hill. See, yeah. I'm off the trail over here. It gets me even.
I'll just walk like this.
Yeah. And I wear a brown shirt when I don't wear my jacket, so it's like just rust.
I was gonna make a joke about, like you said, we're not all as tall as you, and I was like, sorry man, I can't fit your full beard in frame.
Yeah, that's actually the reason I bought a wide angle.